Okay. So, hello and a very, very warm welcome to all of you. This is Nitin Pradhan from Catterfly. And again, an absolute privilege for me to again be a facilitator of our Story of Art session. And as many of you know, the Story of Art session is really about understanding the context, understanding the history, what are the major art movements, the artist, what are the various themes, and of course the challenges that many of our traditional art form actually go from, even as we speak, right? So clearly, when it comes to our live workshop session, we tend to focus more on learning the art from the native artist, but we also take an opportunity in these sessions to talk about, as I said, knowing about the art form and the entire ecosystem around it as much as we can. So hope we'll have an interesting session like always. So let's get started. Now, before we start, of course, just to maybe provide a bit of a brief backdrop, I wanted to share a small video with you because we do tend to take many of these aids. So let's see if I can share something and the entire ecosystem. Okay, so here we go.
हम पहुंच चुके हैं नाथद्वारा। नाथद्वारा की जो एक कला है पिछवाई कला, वो काफी चर्चित है और
So here I'll stop this. And again, by now, of course, you know that we're going to talk about the Pichwai art. And today, of course, Pichwai has a very, very long and a rich history. And I thought maybe I'll put together some charts to talk about Pichwai. Now, all of us already know the Pichwai art obviously comes from Rajasthan. Yeah. And if I may ask, just to kind of start the conversation. Pichwai, as we know, is comes from Nathdwara. Any of the town which is very close to it that you might have visited? Anyone? And Rajasthan is obviously a very, very famous place where most of us
Udaipur.
already.
Udaipur. It is near to Udaipur.
Yes. Did you get a chance to visit Nathdwara?
Yes, I visited there. I visited Nathdwara temple in
Okay,
Nathdwara.
lovely. So,
Yes.
any thoughts, any recollections? What becomes very obvious for you when you go there? So when you visit, and of course, the temple in itself basically is about the entire history. I mean, that's where it kind of really starts in
Yes.
many ways.
Actually, that time I was not aware of Pichwai art form because it's long back, I guess 7, 8 years back. And that time I really don't know about this art form that Pichwai is one of the art form from Rajasthan. And like when I came to know about the Pichwai art form, then I realized, okay, this is from the Nathdwara where I have went 5 or 6 years back. And then I mesmerized all those paintings and the background which I have seen there, and I found it very beautiful. It is very beautiful temple, and the very beautiful like Srinathji picture was there, the painting and that murti and all. So this is the thing which I found very impressive. That okay, this art form I am learning from here.
Wonderful. So, I mean, see, as you kind of recounted, right? I mean, many a times we do certain things without really knowing the context. And you visited the place, of course. Now,
Actually.
obviously, it's a privilege to be there. So, uh, that's why I think many of these sessions become very important, where we tend to understand that whatever we see around us actually has a context, and then it makes the entire experience far more beautiful. So, obviously, if we look at our entire landscape of the Indian traditional art, the folk, and the tribal art, every state has not just one, perhaps many art forms, right? And Pichwai, of course, is also called as the art of God. So, coming from Rajasthan, any other art, which is also probably equally or more famous.
It is fur art.
Yes.
It is fur.
The Fad is obviously very famous when it comes to this, the painting and the fine
Yes.
art, right? And obviously, there are a lot of other performance art. We have conducted sessions on even the Kalbelia dance art form, which obviously,
There
uh,
are some more art forms from Rajasthan, like miniature and that
yes.
Mughal art form are there. But I think Fard and Pichwai is the one of like these two are like more renowned or like more featured for Rajasthan. Like I can say that.
That is true, and I mean clearly the Fard has its different origin, right, as well, and obviously the mythology around the Fard art is different, and the mythology and the stories around the Pichwai art is different. In some ways, though, the Pichwai and the miniature actually, I would not say converse, but they do have some bit of a commonality in the history. In the there's some bit of a convergence there, and I mean those are things that we'll perhaps even talk about. That there's a Kishangarh style of painting when it comes to Pichwai, and the similar kind of a thing also is there in the miniature as well. So Pichwai, of course, coming from Rajasthan and very rich history associated with that. I actually wanted to show everyone certain keywords and maybe ask you to connect the dots. So carefully look at this. Yeah, because in many ways, this actually connects the story of, yeah, Pichwai art. And while they kind of appear kind of a bit separate, the way it is laid out here, anyone who wants to connect these dots and what does it really mean in the context of Pichwai art, maybe? Come on, someone has to take a guess. I think the last three are obviously very obvious. So the 7-year-old Krishna Haveli, I think all of us understand that when we talk about Pichwai, clearly it's the childhood avatar of Lord Krishna, right? But any suggestions, any uh,
Yeah, it's a bal group. It's a bal group of Lord Krishna, who was 7 year old. It's like that, and Tuto I guessed, and Pushti Marg and Shri Vallabh Bhattacharya Haveli. This is a that I knew that it's a Lord Krishna's bal group of like 7 or 8 year old,
mhm.
and Monism and Haveli. I think they did something there in Haveli.
So uh, anyone
Hello.
else? Yes,
So,
please.
Pushti Marg is a tradition that Lord Vallabhacharya has started. So,
Mhm.
Pushti means, that it means a sense of satisfaction. So, this
Yes.
tradition predominantly deals with that. And Haveli is a place where it's kind of a temple and a very elaborate, large space where, we do there are like, I mean, they offer service to Lord and bhog and aarti and everything. There are darshans at different timings where Lord is decorated as per the time. So in the morning darshan, he's in his like night dress, like
Mhm.
pardon my words, but I'm trying to, and that's also equally beautiful as his darshan in full shringar form, where he's fully decorated and looks extremely beautiful.
Yes. So you're right. In fact, the temple in Nathdwara. it's actually called Srinath Ji Ki Haveli. So Haveli actually is from there. And this childhood avatar of Krishna is actually called Srinath Ji. So the temple in Nathdwara is Srinath Ji Ki Haveli. Yeah. And incidentally, the history of Pichwai, of course, while it's very old, it actually goes somewhere around the 16th century. That's around the same time, the beginning of the Pushti Marg, and as founded by the Sri Vallabhacharya, and the philosophy of monism, yeah, actually also started. And of course, I'm by no means a scholar on these aspects, but the way it kind of really comes together is that how do you really kind of attain divinity is kind of really being one with the rest of the universe, yeah. And the philosophy of Lord Krishna's life in general, right, is also about how you are one with the universe. How do you kind of really enjoy what's all around you? Obviously, there are concepts of Ras Leela, etc. And of course, there's a lot of mythological story when it kind of really during the Mughal times. There's this statue of Lord Krishna had to be shifted from Vrindavan, and that's what they kind of say, that it's kind of a childhood avatar because of, I think, something to do with the attack by Aurangzeb, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. That it actually had to be shifted from Vrindavan to Nathdwara, and that's what actually started this entire story of Pichwai, or this Srinathji. So, of course, there will be many of you who would know much better about this. If you know much more deep knowledge about this concept, please feel free to chip in and educate the rest of us. For me, it was very fascinating that many of these concepts actually come together. And if I were to maybe leave you with one takeaway, please try to research a bit and read about how did Pushti Marg actually went from this relatively more northern part of India to the southern part of India, and which are the other art forms which actually got connected with Pushti Marg. If any of you know now, please share. Of course, I would actually give it as a homework or a takeaway that you should actually try to research, because many of these art forms are actually interconnected in some ways. Yeah. Going forward, and some of the real basic stuff, right? If you look at Pichwai, the Pichwai in itself actually means pitch is a back and wai is a textile which is hanging on the back. So while there's a statue and obviously the idol of Srinathji, the Pichwai in itself is actually the painting which is hanging behind the idol. Right? Now, of course, in the paintings we paint various rules or the various stories of Lord Srinath, and which is the childhood avatar of Krishna. But as such, if you look at it, it's actually the painting which is hanging behind the idol. Yeah. And depending on the different festivals, obviously the scenery or the stories, everything changes. Yeah? So, and hence you find different kind of pitchways. So, as it's kind of written here as well, right? I mean, it is made by the members of the Pushti Marg, which was founded by Sri Vallabhacharya in the 16th century, and originally used to decorate the temple of Srinathji, which is actually called Haveli in Nathdwara. Yeah. So obviously, it's a very beautiful painting. There are a lot of stories that you can find associated with that. But the Pichwai in itself, the making of Pichwai is a very, very, very elaborate process. Yeah. Now, there are certain other two keywords that you actually see here on the screen: Bhumi Bandh and Rangakarma. Any suggestions, any guesses? What can you really make out of it? Because fundamentally, these are the two main processes with a lot of multiple steps.
Hi, I'm Arpita here, just guessing, wild guessing. I think Bhumi would be sketching and Rankarma would be color filling.
Second one is
I
obviously
think
right.
I think
Yeah.
Bhumi Bandha is the background. and Rang Karma is the coloring of the figures. That's what to me it looks like that.
Yes, I mean, both of you are almost there. Bhumi Bandh, although has a slightly more specific meaning than that. Yeah. And it actually, I mean, if I were to give you a hint, it actually goes back to on what surface it is made.
I guess they are just fixing the surface, like on the canvas or the cotton cloth on which the Pichwai is made. So I guess they are just fixing for the permanent basis. I mean, till the entire artwork is done. So they're just fixing that surface, and after that, the coloring and everything, like sketching and coloring, is done. So that I guess they have some belief that the as it is the painting of Krishna, so nothing should go wrong and nothing should be spoiled. So that's why they are just fixing to make sure that everything has to be perfect. So I guess that could be the meaning of Mebanda and Rangakarma.
Yes. And just to kind of bring all these things together, uh, see, it's obviously the Pichwais really exist for very, very, very long periods. Right. So fundamentally, as we are just kind of discussing, it's a cloth. It's done on cloth, which basically hangs on the backside of the idol. And clearly, these are kind of really last centuries. So the surface or the way it's typically done on the stretched cotton, and the way they kind of really prepare it on the kind of stretched cotton, that entire process is called bhumi ban. Yeah. And then, of course, then the sketching and the filling of the colors is around karma. So while there are two major aspects of it, the entire process in itself is obviously very, very elaborate. So as I was saying, right, the Pichwai is traditionally done on a stressed or the starched cotton fabric. Yeah. And there's an entire processing of that is basically called the bhumipan. And the artist would basically start with the sketching on that. Yeah. Which is where then you will basically talk about so there's a main motif, and then there's a kind of other decorative element around it. Now, one thing which is very critical to understand that nowadays, of course, we do it on the canvas with the acrylic or different colors, right? But traditionally, it is always done with the organic and the natural colors, derived from different sources, typically coals, gold, indigo, silvers, zinc, etc. And you would see that there are certain kind of more earthy colors, and then there are a lot of these ornate colors when we are talking about kind of doing the jewelry and getting the even the shading effect, etc. In many ways, sometimes you also even attach the crystals and the other decorative stones on top of it. Now, one thing which is very important from the perspective of the main motif, right? You would typically see that Lord Krishna, the way it is depicted in Pichwai and there's a Lord Srinathji, right, is very different from where you would typically find the maybe the grown-up avatar of Lord Krishna, right? So it is a 7-year-old. It's a 7-year-old avatar. Yeah. So that's why you would see the spatial features like the typically big nose, the large eyes, the big belly, because I mean that's basically childhood avatar. So a very spatial attention is actually given to show that this is basically a childhood avatar. So it's kind of obviously you have the cheeks which are a bit fluffy and the eyes a bit big, the nose is a bit bigger. These are not, that's typically what we see in the kids of that age. So uh, a significant part of the time is also spent on actually kind of, obviously, since these are the very, very small things, a significant part of the process is also spent on giving the shading effect and enhancing some of these features. Now, while we are talking about it, if I may ask, any guesses typically how long it would take to do in authentic Pichwai? Anyone?
I think it would depend on the size, but not less than a month, perhaps 3 months.
Yes, I think you're right. I mean, we obviously try to attempt some very ambitious schemes in our workshops, and usually it's done on a work from canvas, so it's relatively easier. Uh, but as you said, it can take up to several months to do an authentic pitch way. Yeah. I mean, minimum at least it takes a month, or sometimes it can even goes up to 6 months also in when you do the traditional pitch way, and that is also obviously one of the reasons why the pitch way in itself is a relatively expensive piece of art when you actually go and buy the authentic pitch way from the market. Yeah. So yes, I mean nowadays you do find a lot of things which are not maybe the authentic ones, but usually um, uh, any of you who would have the authentic Pichwai in your home, or maybe if you have visited Nathdwara and have gone to some of these uh, artist workshops and inquired about the prices, what is a typical starting range for this Pichwai art? Any guesses?
I've not been, but I'm sure it is in thousands because all the colors used are natural, and there is a fair amount of precious metals also used, sometimes gold foil, gold, stones.
Mhm. That's right. Usually, of course, it depends on the size, and obviously that determines the effort that goes behind making the painting. Uh, but usually, I mean, since it is kind of obviously hung on the wall, the size is bigger. So minimum you would typically see it's like kind of 2 feet by 3 feet or 3 feet by 4 feet, and it's not a surprise that you would see the starting price range of an authentic pitchway would anywhere be between 50 to 60,000 or probably more. Yeah. So obviously it's a process, the amount of time, the material use, all these things really determine that what's the value of the art, right? So clearly, it is, as I said, it's a relatively more expensive art as compared to the other art form because the effort, the scale, the size, the material required, everything is on a very, very different order of magnitude, right? Now, while we're talking about it, again, let me show you something which actually tends to bring many of these pieces together in terms of the various concepts that we have been talking about. So, a small video again, and yeah.
Few arts are as linked to the place they come from. The famous Pichwais of Nathdwara are inspired by the deity who lives in this Haveli, his home. This is a town where Srinathji, as a young Krishna is called here, can be found everywhere. In the temple, outside it, on the walls, and in these stunning artworks. The beautiful Pichwai paintings are part theatrical and part devotional. Most of the Pichwais depict Krishna in his Srinathji form, that is, as a 7-year-old Krishna holding up the Govardhan mountain. Different episodes from the life of Krishna and festivals like the Ras Leela, Govardhan Puja, Janmashtami, all are frequently depicted in these Pichwais. Srinathji under the shade of a tree playing enchanting tunes on his flute, surrounded by peacocks. These are just some of the many Pichwais that make this art so famous.
So, as we were just discussing, right? I mean, this was just a kind of short video to bring everything together. So, the childhood of Dal, the 7-year-old. You also probably got a virtual tour of how Srinathji Ki Haveli also looks like. Yeah, and obviously it's a very, very grand temple in a small town, Nathdwara. So, if you get a chance to go to Udaipur again, obviously don't miss visiting this place. It's actually not very far off. It's around 70, 80 kilometers from there. So a very, very beautiful place. And one of the thing which obviously the dominant theme in this, the childhood avatar of Krishna. Now, there are obviously many other themes as well. Yeah. So if we look at the other themes, right? It is basically around the story of Lord Krishna. So while of course the themes are typically endless, there's so many mythological story, but starting with Janmashtami, obviously the birth of Lord Krishna, in which obviously he being born and obviously then growing up to be a slightly big kid. Then obviously the story of Ras Leela, the way it is done, and which is obviously very, very familiar to us. Then the Sharad Purnima, which is actually done in a very, very vibrant color. So you would actually see a range of stories which are associated typically with the life of Lord Krishna. And the Janmashtami and the Ras Leela are typically done in slightly more subdued colors, but the Sharad Purnima in particular is done in a very, very vibrant colors. Yeah. And in fact, you would see that typically you would also have these the Kamal Talai. In fact, this is also a very famous themes where the it is you will find certain Pichwai where you do only with the Kamal Talai. Yeah. And there are paintings in which you would basically just depict Vrindavan and Mathura with lush green forest and obviously the Govardhan mountain in the backdrop. So uh, the themes are obviously quite a many, but some of these prominent themes obviously stand out. There, in fact, if you recollect the starting screen that I showed, which is of just let me actually go there and this one. Any guesses? What does this theme actually depict? We have actually done this theme in our workshop. So if any of you have joined this, you would probably know.
Is it the winter in the winter season when Lord is wrapped in some woolen shawl, and in the morning, during the morning and maybe late evening hours when it's extremely cold?
Yeah, that's spot on actually. So basically, yes. I mean, either the early part of the winter or the later part, right? After he kind of takes bath and really kind of comes out, Lord Krishna is obviously wrapped in this blanket. Yeah. So it's actually this is what this theme depicts. So as I said, the the themes can be as simple around his life, or it could be as elaborate as a Ras Leela or Sharad Purnima or Janmashtami. So obviously, when we talk about the short version of the workshops, we are able to pick up relatively simpler theme, and hopefully, if many of you are interested, then we will obviously do the larger version as well, and I'm sure Nidhi will talk about that in a bit. So just kind of going forward, just to kind of really bring it around, right? I mean, see, this art form obviously has evolved over a period, and there are a lot of artists who have obviously contributed to it. Right? So practically, you would see that there are paintings like the Pushkar Lohar, who basically more in the relatively recent times have contributed a lot. But in the past, when we talk about how the obviously the royalty and different kings obviously supported it, then Nihal Chand is actually considered to be one of the really famous artists from the 18th century. In fact, he was the chief artist of Raja Savant Singh. And the fact that even now in the Srinathji temple, these Pichwais are made, then obviously these are done by the artists who are living there. So the the chief painter and the photographer of the Srinathji temple, Mr. Gashiram Sharma. In fact, um, Sharma, I mean, if you really maybe on a lighter note, Sharma is something which is going to be a very, very common surname in Nathdwara, because a lot of these artists are obviously as a clan or a community, they actually inherit that name. In fact, uh, as all of you know, even our master artist, Mr. Kapil Sharma, is actually a fifth generation Pichwai artist. And he, in fact, started working with us actually quite some time ago. And which is the part that I would actually like to maybe check with some of you, that any idea or any suggestions? When did we actually started Pichwai art form as a part of the Catterfly workshop?
So I'm sure it's almost a year ago because I remember attending the launch session and it was fascinating. And you've had so many more sessions, but definitely a year, I feel.
Yeah. I mean, it's actually a year plus for sure.
Okay. Must be.
Yeah. So we actually started Pichwai art if I'm not mistaken, in November of 2020. So it's actually close to maybe around 16, 17 months. And just wanted to obviously reintroduce the artist to all of you, if many of you didn't have a chance to be part of his sessions. And let me just simply, when we started this, we had a very nice video which we did with him. So let's have a look. And here you will also actually get to see where he works and his workshop.
My father, my grandfather, my Nana ji, my wife, they are 5 brothers, all are artists. सभी पिछड़े करते हैं. श्रीनाथ जी के दर्शन जब करते हैं तो श्रीनाथ जी के पीछे पीठिका में जो बैकड्रॉप में जो चीज लगती है उसको पिछड़े कहते हैं. ठाकुर जी को 100 साल पुरानी 1.5 साल पुरानी पिछड़ी धराई जाती है. कपड़े के ऊपर क्लॉथ पे वाटर कलर से हम ड्राइंग करते हैं. अलग अलग ठाकुर जी ने लीलाएं करी तो लीलाओं के चित्र बनाए जाते हैं. गोवर्धन लीला, अन्नकूट डूबते हुए, दान लीला. ठाकुर जी ने जैसे गोपियों से दान मांगा है तो दान लीला की पिछड़ी बनती है, अन्नकूट की पिछड़ी बनती है. मेरा नाम कपिल शर्मा है. ये मेरी आर्ट में 4th जनरेशन है. तो कैटरफ्लाई के साथ आप मुझे ज्वाइन करिए, मैं आपको पिछड़े सिखाऊंगा.
So, I mean, for us, it's actually kind of seems like an ages ago, to be honest. But I mean, it's very nice to kind of really look back and see that what all we have been able to do. And obviously, a lot of workshops have been conducted, a lot of workshops have been planned also. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to, first of all, very quickly take you through. Many of you would be familiar with our classroom concepts. So let me just very quickly talk about some of the themes that we have already done. And again, you obviously can get access to it. We have actually launched our masterclass library very recently. So if you want, you can obviously get access to it. You would see that there's so many of these themes that have already been done. Obviously, Krishna on cow and a beautiful night with the peacocks. It was one of my really favorite one. As I was talking about Kamal Talai with cow in the center, Govinda with his cows, symmetrical design. Krishna in blue. So in each of these workshop, right, we typically would say that if you look at it, you would actually have a lot of these pictures, which are you can follow from the step-by-step approach. And then from the workshops, there are these workshop videos. So again, a step-by-step approach and the entire recording that you can actually get access to. There's you can even submit your artwork. You can get the feedback from the artist, or you can get the feedback from our art curators. So I would certainly encourage you to join this classroom and see that what all is there. And if you want access to it, of course, Nidhi can provide that. Now, with that, let me again have maybe Nidhi talk through what is really coming. And after that, I'm very happy to take any questions and let's have an open floor. So Nidhi, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Nitin. I really want to thank you for giving us so much information about Pichwai. So I would like to take you all through the very well curated themes which we have done, like chosen for you all. So the first in the list is typical Pichwai painting, which we are picking up in our next workshop, which is starting from this Monday, February 14th. And it's a 2-week workshop. As you can see, a face of Srinathji with 2 cows on both the sides. So timings for Pichwai workshop with us is from 4 to 5 p.m. and Monday to Friday. So after this, we have few more themes. We are coming up with a very different kind of workshop. We wanted to do something which can be usable as well, so we'll be doing this Pichwai Kamal Talai on MDF box. So that's a unique curated theme. And after this we'll be doing a typical Pichwai that's like cows with Kamal Talai. It's a bit easy theme for beginners, basically, who want to try and want to learn a part of Pichwai. Then after this we have another, this is all like Krishna's blessing in Nathwara. So this will be a little of like a perspective, like making of the buildings and all would also be there. So it's a beautiful chosen workshop. After this we have this golden tree with cows. So we have made this calendar till April. I will share the link in all the groups, just have a look of this. So because we are doing the story of session, I would like to reveal an offer to everybody who's in this group. So with this workshop which we are starting of Srinath ji with cow from Monday, we are really happy to announce the offer of 20% discount on the published price. So whoever is interested in doing these workshops, please contact me. My number is there in all the WhatsApp groups, so you can anytime contact me. So we'll be starting with this on Monday. Any details you want, you can just message me. And other than this, I would also want to tell, like for Pichwai and for other art forms also, we have quarterly packages. So you can, if you're interested in doing Pichwai and learning, so it's advisable to take a longer duration, like a quarterly or a yearly subscription. Then maybe you can, over the period of time, you can learn Pichwai. So this this is what I wanted to tell. So anybody who is interested can contact me directly. Yeah,
I
thank
have a
you.
question. I
Yeah,
have a
Nitin.
question. So this offer is only for the people who are joining these workshops, or also for the people who are watching it on YouTube?
Uh, it is for everybody actually. We recently we have also done a quiz on this, and we have really got good number of replies, and we have given this offer to people who have like given correct answers. So initially it is for those who are watching us live and who are there in this group. So who's watching us live can obviously contact me, and people who are there, they are already knowing about this. So the first preference would be given to the people who are watching us and who are with us in this story of art session.
Wonderful. That's what I wanted to hear. There should be a
Yeah. So it's basically only for those who are there in this one and who are watching us live.
Nancy, can you talk about the quarterly subscription and a little bit about the details of how does it work?
Surely. See, quarterly subscription is basically, it's a 12-week subscription in which the date on which you start will count the 12 weeks from that. So see, there are different kind of workshops. Some are planned for 1 week, some are planned for 2 weeks, some are planned for 3 weeks. So whatever falls in 12 weeks, it's like you will be getting from that date till 12 weeks. And I will whoever is interested, we generally share the upcoming calendar with that person. And the cost of the quarterly subscription for Pichwai especially is close to, I think, 6,700, if I'm not wrong. I'll give you the exact figure. If you're interested, just ping me. So this is
maybe
the
Nidhi, what you could do is,
yeah.
if you go, there's under art and activity, there's a Catterfly subscription plan. We can just quickly talk through that maybe. In the same screen.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. 1 minute. So this is the subscription offer. Basically, it talks about all of them, but specifically if you want to talk about Pichwai, I'll take you down. So here it is, like Pichwai, we have this monthly primer in which you can register for 1 month. So this price is for 1 month. I mean, it's for 4 weeks. 1 month, we count it for 4 weeks. So the price is for 2,550. Then if you take a quarterly subscription for Pichwai, that is for 6,750. So as I told you, it's a 12-week we count for quarterly. And then we have this yearly subscription. So that's a different thing. It's like we are doing it for 7 art forms we give. So that's price is for quarterly, it's for 15,000, and monthly is for 6,120. So in this one, the benefit is also like you get 7 art forms, which includes Pichwai, Patachitra, Kerala mural, Madhubani, Varli, Kalighat, and contemporary. So all the art forms will be included in this. Apart from that, any other art form, you will get a discount as per what subscription model you're choosing. So
In
this
fact,
was
if you
about.
scroll up, I just wanted to emphasize a few things because this is for many people who perhaps are not as aware of the way we are approaching it. If you just go up all the way. So see, what we have done is that we have fundamentally divided into 2 parts, primer and Club 16. Yeah. Now, the real difference between the two is that in primer, typically you tend to choose one art. You can choose it for a month, or you can choose it for a quarterly period, or you can choose it for the whole year. Depending on that, obviously, we incentivize the fact that, and it's obviously works better for the artists because they actually get a longer term commitment to teach. So usually for a relatively simpler art like Varli or Madhubani, you would have that starting from 2040, which is slightly obviously higher for something like Pichwai, which is slightly more complex art. Going to the quarterly and yearly, it basically you tend to get far better from a commercial perspective because, as I said, it works better for the artist. In Club 16, though, you basically get around a minimum 5 art sessions, which are literally happening every week. Yeah. And again, which are the art forms already part of this? You would have Madhubani, Varli, Contemporary, Patachitra, Kerala mural. And then we keep on doing the special sessions for the different arts like Pard, Miniature, Thanka. And when we do that, you obviously get a better price as compared to anyone who is not a subscriber. So other part is, again, you get a chance to be part of these story of art or the art open houses sessions. You can actually gift a workshop to your family and friends at a better price. Most importantly, you actually tend to get this classroom access, especially if you're going for the quarterly thing, that these are with you forever. Yeah. Which basically means that, see, it's very difficult for anyone to be able to do it at the pace of the artist. And it takes time, and you should always enjoy your art, and you should take the right amount of time to actually do your piece or make it perfect. That's why we realized that while of course it's an additional effort on our part, we are actually making sure that if you're looking for a longer window, then you also have access to the videos and the classroom access forever. So these are the parts that I wanted to just kind of explain. I would certainly encourage many of you because at least speaking from my perspective, I'm not a great artist. I can probably talk about art, but I need time. I need to be able to do it slowly. And hence, it's not just about one theme, but really doing multiple themes. Sometimes it will work out well, sometimes it will not work out well, but this is how you learn the art, like anything else in life. Sometimes you'll make mistakes, sometimes you'll do it better. So I thought maybe I'll just kind of chip in why it has been done this way. And I hope many of you will be able to join. And Arpitaji is saying that if I can confirm about keeping it forever, yes. I mean, as long as Catterfly exists, if you're signing up for a longer window, you will have access to these videos. So I hope that is clear for everyone.
Okay, thank you.
So starting from Arpitaji, starting from quarterly, we actually kind of enable the longer one, and of course for the annual one as well. So if you go for quarterly plus or annual, you can actually have the access to these videos forever. So it's just that when you go for the annual, obviously the prices are much better for the workshop, as I said, because the artists actually tend to get longer term visibility. So while of course we want to talk about some of these upcoming themes, coming back to the story of art, any suggestions, any questions, anything that you would like to add in the context of Pichwai?
Yes, Nitin, please. I had a question which I've been really thinking about for a very long time. You see, why do they have a nose ornament for Lord Krishna here? Since that's a typically female, piece of ornament. So why is it shown in this Srinathji's? Any reason for that?
I can take maybe just an informed guess. I actually do not know the answer to that. Perhaps I think it's more to do with that it's a childhood avatar, and in general, I mean, when we really look at the kids, right, we tend to decorate them with a lot of these ornaments and all, right? Even when our kids, sometimes even it's more like even a boy, we will kind of maybe dress them up as girls, right? Sometimes. So it could be some of these reasons, but to be honest, I really don't know the specific answer to this.
Maybe you can ask your artist or something. It'll be interesting to know. Maybe there is something behind it, because generally you don't see a nose ring in Lord Krishna's picturization. So I've always wondered why they have this here and which way only.
Actually, Yoshita ji has just kind of put up in the chat that because he is depicted as a Swaroop of Radha.
Is that so?
So that could be maybe actually important reason, but yes, we would certainly check it with our artists as well.
Yeah, and one
yes, actually, it's like he is adorned in the way Radha used to adorn herself. So it is like that, more of a feminine side to it.
And there's one more thing I would like to say, Nitinji, that I have attended a couple of sessions of Pichwai with your artist, and he is a wonderful teacher, because it looks very simplistic when you see the photograph, but this art is so complicated and so much of layering involved. And I have really liked the way he takes so much pains to explain each layer of it, how to do the shading, because shading is the most important part in this painting, and he teaches it so well. So I really want you to convey at least my compliments to him for this. And secondly, another thing which I really like is that when they make these paintings, they use such lovely terms, like he will not say face ya chehra, he will say mukharvind. It sounds so nice, when you think of it, that look at the kind of sentiment that he's making it with. So mukharvind, or last mein he always says, ab hum unke netra kholenge. So he says that once you make the eye, then you don't do any other touching up. So whatever correction is to be done. So all these little touches of these folk artists make it so nice. They add such a nice sentiment to the whole experience.
Actually, yes. I mean, I'm glad you pointed this out, because and Pichwai is actually, it looks simpler, but it's actually very difficult to do.
Yeah, it's very difficult to get that look. That shading requires so many layers and very patient work, and it teaches it very well. It's easy to understand and follow it.
And also, I think there's a very honest admittance from different artists, especially this one, is that sometimes you do go wrong. Yeah, it's a part of being an artist. Yeah, it's a part of actually. Sometimes you do a bit of an experiments. It's very difficult to get those shading effect, because see, in the end, you are trying to teach the technique rather than actually doing or making your own painting.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah. So when you make your own painting, right, as we were discussing, the actual Pichwai is done in a very long period of time, right? I mean, you don't do a Pichwai painting in a 1 week or 2 week kind of a thing where you're spending 10 hours. actual Pichwai, the process as we were talking about is a very, very, very elaborate process. And obviously you have to do it with a far higher attention, with a far, I mean, it's almost like meditative, the way you'd kind of do it for a couple of months, right? I mean, you have to have the real skills as well as that kind of a patience to be able to do it that way. And talking about the language, I personally think that it's, I mean, at least I can talk about myself, that our language sometimes tend to get quite polluted, right, with the way we speak about things. But when we talk, but when we really kind of think about the places like Nathdwara, which are obviously not very big cities, right, and obviously primarily associated with Srinath Ji ki Haveli and the people living there. In fact, Kapilji actually sometimes keeps on sending us the videos from there. And it's actually quite fun to watch. That, I mean, especially this cow festival, right, where you decorate the cows with those hand figures. So, and how the cows actually kind of really come inside the Haveli, all of a sudden. And this is very rustic, very natural. So, and I think that obviously reflects in the way people live there, the way people actually talk about that. And that's actually is the benefit of learning from many of these native artists, because that's how they are. I mean, they're probably not the professors or the lecturers, but they kind of, that's how they are. So it really comes out that way.
I really appreciate the grid method which is being used now in Pichwai. It has become easier for us to sketch now. Earlier it was so difficult.
You're right. You're right. In fact, we're actually trying to see and do it in some other art forms also, but all the more so that the arts which actually have a strong emphasis on sketching, right? As compared to say, like if you look at Varli or Madhubani, which are more like the freehand. I mean, this is also freehand, but these kind of paintings like the Pichwai or maybe Kerala mural or Patachitra, it starts with a sketch before you do anything with it. So getting the proportions right, yeah. I mean, there are only two methods. How do you really kind of get the proportions and the symmetry right? Either you actually learn the proper method, the way it really gets done. There's a lot of theory behind, I mean, how do you do sketching? And we are actually in the process of even launching that very soon in terms of how do you kind of go step by step process. Or otherwise, basically you follow the grid method where you know where to place what element. So I'm so happy, Rikaji, that you're liking it. And that obviously goes to our art moderators and curators, as well as artists who are obviously coming out with this newer methods to make it easier for all of us.
I have one question. For the workshops that's starting on Monday, is there any other prerequisites that we need to do? Because actually I missed yesterday's session. So I don't know if you have mentioned any kind of prerequisites or preparedness for the Monday session.
Kathy, I will inform you about this because I think most probably we'll start the session from Tuesday. So we will give all the information in the group itself. I think we will be doing it that also with grid method, but over the weekend we will share it with everyone.
Yeah, I also wanted to see if, like, you know, if I mean, if we can kind of what do I say, replicate it through a tracing paper on the canvas board. If we get a printout of that, the outline, then our sketch would be like extremely accurate, because I mean, not really good at drawing.
In that case, because see, the first day basically we devote for sketching, so you can wait for that day, and once the picture like once the sketch is made, we'll be sharing it in the classroom. You can pick it from there and then maybe take a printout, and I'll share it with you, and then you can trace it on the canvas.
Okay, that will be amazing. And also, you know, like this is going to be my office timing, so you would give me the recording on the same day so I can try it in the morning hours. if
Yeah,
in
yeah,
case I
sure.
miss.
Recordings, as we have just told, like for all individual workshops, the recordings are for 21 days, and obviously for the quarterly subscriptions, it is unlimited.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
The only thing that you actually need as a prerequisite is the intent. Everything else we have made it easy.
What is it?
For
Sorry.
trying to. I'm saying the only prerequisite is the intent and commitment, which all of you have in plenty. And the rest of the thing we are trying to make it easier.
Yeah, thank you very much.
I have one question regarding that. Like, if somebody join for quarterly plan or a yearly plan, so are you providing any certification or something like that for those who have participated for the workshop, or is anything?
So for the certificates, we are obviously happy to provide that. Yeah. And most of the people do not ask for it because obviously they are really kind of maybe learning it as more as a vocation. But if anyone has a need for the certificates, let us know. We are quite happy to provide that. Yeah. But bear in mind that we are obviously not a college or an educational institute. So, but yes, having said that, if you have completed a course and done it well, that's something that we'll of course authorize. Good. So with that, again, it's almost been an hour, and I hope all of you enjoyed the session. And of course, there's some questions regarding how do you get access to the classrooms. I think please do get in touch with Nidhi. She will obviously explain how do you get access to the classroom. And I wish all of you a very nice weekend and enjoy. And don't remember your homework. What is the connection of the Pushti mark with some of the other art forms in the southern part of India? And then we'll talk about it maybe in the next session on the story of art. Have a good weekend.
Sure.
Bye.
Sure.
Thank you so much,
so
sir.
much.
Thank you
so
very
much.
much. We really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Yes,
Pleasure.
we got a
Pleasure.
lot of new information today regarding Pichwai art form, and we will try to learn more, like more terms which you have used today, and like the much we learn, much we create better in the art form. Like the information we are getting, we little bit information say we'll make a Kamal Talai or a Srinathji face, but we don't know the actual background, what is there like in the pitch way.
Picture of
So these are
Srinath
the new
ji.
terms which I have learned today. So I'll definitely work on it, and let's see what I'll get.
Picture of Srinath ji I've seen for the first time like this. I always knew about Lord Krishna. The other picture which is in the north side.
Yes. Yes.
I don't
So
know.
yes, I mean, knowing the context of the art sometimes actually not is it's not just a kind of education. It actually
Even
helps us to do better, right? I mean, we
even
do it
other
with the
art forms.
yes,
Even other
absolutely.
art forms. Only I used to see on the walls only on the while traveling on the
And
road
it is
side.
good to know more about the art form which we are making, so that it will give a better impression, you know. When somebody will ask you what you have made, so you have at least some knowledge and background of it, like you are able to describe it, and the story and the like history of that art form, and that's the beauty of Indian art form that we have beautiful stories behind it. So we must know as an artist or like beginner or a learner, so we should know about these like stories behind it.
That is so much true. I mean, art is as much about how it looks and obviously the beautiful aspect of it. And in fact, one of the art historian actually made a very good comment in one of our art sessions. I think in the Kali art session that you cannot just appreciate art only because of the way it looks or how beautiful it is. Yeah. It is also about knowing that story because all art forms by just by the look of it may appeal to some, may not appeal to some people, right? But it's a story which appeals to most of the people, and hence we really take very special care that we are able to consistently month on month bring about this story of art session where we pick up one art and try to talk more about it. So By the way, there is a classroom for the story of art also. So you should perhaps join that. And that's actually complimentary for most of the people. Yeah. So again, really happy to have you all of you here. And I wish all of you a very nice weekend. And do not forget your homework. Bye-bye.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for this workshop.